up, and then I got to the top of the hill, Sylvan on 26, and then boom. All of a sudden, we got blue skies around us. So it's a nice Wednesday. Great little December day for us here, huh?
Yeah, I was doing physical therapy this morning, and I had the sun kind of like pounding into the building.
Yep.
And I was like, Christmas is in like 4 days?
It's awesome.
5 days? Like, what's happening?
Don't tell people. More people will move here.
It's a little bit weird.
It's good. We don't have bad weather here.
We are getting nice days, but these nights, holy crap.
Cold.
26, 25, and you're like, I put the puppies outside, man, and I'm not enjoying life. It's because you go for the nice little 68-degree house, you know, nice little cozy house, and then you walk outside in 25 in the basketball shorts, and it's a lot.
What, 25 degrees? Do you live on the top of a mountain?
It got super
Where
cold.
do you live?
It was 27?
Yeah, on top of Grinch Mountain.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
Ooh, what did you say to your wife yesterday when you got home? Because I know you were stewing on it for, let's see, when you left the house, you probably had 13 hours before you got home. Oh, what did you say to your wife?
Way more than that, man.
What did you say to your wife?
She was asleep.
What? Okay. Did you wake up and...
No, she was gone when I got up this morning.
Oh,
she's let this chaos grenade like stew for
this is not
a
good
day
for
plus.
her. This is a poor plan on her part. If you missed it yesterday, Danny's wife told him he had too much salt in the hair.
Too much salt in the hair.
Extra salty.
Little extra salt in the hair. Yep.
And if there's one man who knows salt, that guy. And you were stewing on that. You took that personally.
I definitely didn't.
And you got a little sensey over it.
I wasn't stewing over it. I definitely didn't bring it up to my physical therapist today at all.
Stewing, you were boiling over it. There was no simmer.
I definitely didn't bring it up to my physical therapist today.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what are you going to say to her? Can we get a preview?
No, because I do, like.
You're just going to let it sit until she does something, and then you're going to blow up?
Yeah, probably. How does this outfit look? Take it in the back and
whoa. Jeff Rust. Hey yo. Yeah, that's not going to be good. I can't wait to hear about the fight that this creates, though, because you're not going to handle it well.
Oh no,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, but at least you acknowledge it.
When I come in
she
one
knows
morning,
what she's getting into.
Oh, when I come in one morning, I'm laughing like, hey, I'm going to spend a couple extra hours after work here. That'll be why.
No.
Okay. It's best not to go home right now.
All right. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. Indeed. Jeff Rust is here wearing his Wooderson shirt. All right. How you doing?
Holla at your boy.
Holla at your boy. What's going on with you?
I'm here. Tomorrow's the shortest day of the year. It's the winter solstice. Winter starts.
It's also our last day before being back on what, Wednesday?
Wednesday? You guys will be here Wednesday. I'm still off on Wednesday.
No. Oh, okay, there you go.
A Wednesday. So we got that going for us, which is nice. Well, actually, no.
No, you won't.
Danny will be here.
Yes.
And that'll be. Look, this is the holiday season. This is what happens. Them's the breaks.
Yep.
And even that show is a short show because we got a bowl game that day. We got a bowl game that day. You're doing 2 hours turn and burn.
I'm spending more time driving than I am doing the show.
I doubt it because traffic will be light. Traffic will be light.
That's true. It might be one of those days where I get to do about 90 in here.
As long as you avoid major retail centers, because then traffic will be heavy around those.
It's post-Christmas though.
Shopping. Oh, it is post-Christmas. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a dummy.
I didn't want to say it.
I
didn't want to say it.
It'll be a little bit busier with people returning stuff that they don't want. How about that?
Yeah. Should we embrace Boxing Day like Canada does? And just use it as...
we could take a lot of notes from what Canada does correctly.
I think it would be great to have like...
you mean like keeping Miles Bridges out of their country?
Yep, they did that.
That's a start.
No, but like you could marry it with Festivus, right? Because December 26th is Boxing Day. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not quite sure what Boxing Day is. But if you did it in compliment to Festivus, you could have your airing of grievances along with sending the gift that you don't want to somebody else, like you could just in the face of somebody be like, I'm sending the gift that you got me and here's why to somebody else. I think that would be good. I don't know what Boxing Day is though. You send a gift to somebody. Is that right?
It says it originated as a holiday to give gifts to the poor.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. See,
Also-
that's good.
Also a great, the
See, Canadians care.
Also, the Brits do Boxing
Yeah, it
Day
started
as well.
from the
They do.
Brits.
Yeah, but they
And then,
the Boxing Day is like their sports Christmas. That's when they line up all the soccer matches to all go at the same time
On Boxing Day.
and it's fantastic.
Okay.
Love it. One of my sporting rituals is to go from Christmas basketball to Boxing Day soccer all day.
I'll be sure to do what I normally do and not watch soccer on that Boxing Day.
Wow.
I will do that. That will be my Christmas promise to
All right.
everybody.
I too will make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, like you're like, it's great. They stack up all these games together. That's awesome for them. It's great for soccer fans who wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to watch all those games.
Well, here,
Well, yeah.
yeah, but overseas, but it runs all
Yeah,
day.
I don't live in London.
Yeah, well, you know what though? Their 7:00 tips kickoffs. They're noon for us. It's actually quite nice.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so when they run their late ones, it's a nice little 9 to noon. Or I
Sure.
should say 9 to 2.
Perfect.
Window. It's a nice little.
Wait, I thought you said it was noon. Well, they
like for like your like when you're watching. So you have some matches at 7 locally in England.
okay. Now you're just time zoning me, and I'm confused.
8 hours difference.
Well, no, I know, but you said it's noon here,
Yeah.
but then you changed it to 9 here,
Well,
and I
that's-
don't know.
That's the earlier matches.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So like
There we go.
they're 4 p.m. matches.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Then
So
now we're
basically-
talking.
Basically, from like 9 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, you have a nice little run of soccer the day after Christmas.
Time zones are confusing, but they're necessary.
Yeah, I mean it's that or you're playing in darkness.
Well, is it China or Russia that is all one time zone?
That seems like a Russian thing.
Russia has 13 time zones.
They should.
Okay, then
They
maybe it's
should.
China.
They
But
should.
China
they're,
might,
They're
yeah,
a massive
No,
country.
I'm kidding. Russia, I think, has 6 time zones, if I remember right.
I don't know.
I think it's all in one.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
That's a big country, but that
No,
would be
it is a lot. It's 11.
11 time zones in Russia. It's a massive country. That thing is.
Yeah.
But do you really need one? Do you need like the 3 time zones that Siberia takes up? Because I mean, it's like nobody really lives there.
Yeah, for both people.
Also, it's
And the Tigers?
super far north, which
Yeah.
means your days don't exist.
Yeah, right. So you don't really need it there. I fixed that. But winter solstice tomorrow. That's a long way of saying winter solstice is tomorrow, the shortest day of the year, and then days start getting longer. Hey, look upside. It's all uphill after tomorrow. Huh? How about that?
There you go.
All right. Now we need to get rid of falling back and springing forward, and we'll be good to go.
Didn't we make some like advancements there?
Yeah,
Like, weren't we
every
supposed-
state has voted for it, but they're still like, nah, not going to do it. I don't know. Be like Arizona. That's a thing I didn't think I'd be saying. Arizona is
Get drunk.
the Florida of the West, and people don't realize that.
No.
It is the Florida of the West. There's some kooky stuff that
We
happens
just
there.
don't have we just don't have swamp puppies.
No, but they got a lot of other animals that'll kill you.
Yeah.
Scorpions and rattlesnakes. I know we have those here. People are like, hey, we have those here. No, they got them all over.
They're few and far between.
You got the desert. You just got to get baked in the sun. Yeah, I do believe that Florida and Arizona,
Kindred spirits.
they are in the sun for so long,
It bakes their brains.
it bakes everything. You're
Well,
just
see-
boiling your entire body.
Well, see, no, you get the
My brother's moving to Arizona.
Arizona is the that's like beef jerky. Like you're drying it out and smoking it.
Yeah.
Whereas Florida, you're not boiling it per se because it's not quite.
You're steaming
that
it.
hot. Yeah,
You're steaming it.
That's your steamed rice.
Yeah.
that's
I'd say more broccoli because they kind of is. I mean, it's stinky.
that's
It's got a little funk to it. Some people love it.
kimchi.
Others people are like, nope, not for me.
It's your kimchi, little fermentation.
There you go. That's absolutely
that.
it. Yeah.
Beef jerky.
And as Rufio points out, Arizona is very similar to Australia of the USA. Australia is a bizarro country too. Just because they have accents and beautiful people, they have got the most terrifying animals in the world.
Yes, also
and they've got some absolute lunatics.
And well, yes, the staggering majority of their population was stemmed from British criminals. So
Yeah. So, the people that Danny used to kick it with, the
Wow.
criminals.
no.
What?
I do not consort with those folks.
Do you understand that most of the country thinks that you're one of the stupidest people around right now?
I love that drop. That's from a
Great.
guy who went swimming in like Alligator Alley. And he was like, yeah, I know.
Did he get bit?
No, he's alive. He's alive. I think he got bit, but he got out of there.
Oh.
He got out of there.
That's rare.
Well, yeah.
The swamp puppies typically don't just take a little nip out of you.
I feel like Australia is just full of a lot of people with the mentality of like the full send snowboarders, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, those people, there's just like not snow for them to be on.
There is, though.
But then they just are like, I'm just going to be crazy everywhere else.
That's the thing about Australia is we think about it as either like the Great Barrier Reef or the
Well, I
deserts
know.
or the red clay. Like if you go to like southeastern Australia and in New Zealand, there's snow and mountains.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
New Zealand is not nearly as nice as we think it is climate wise.
No.
It is far colder,
No, it's
there's a lot of sheep.
It's more Nordic.
but south.
Yeah. So Sordic.
Sordic. Yeah. Sordic. I think you just created a
Sudic?
new word.
Sudic?
Yeah.
Because there's no R there.
And they got enormous people because Steven Adams is from there.
Yeah. They've got a special kind of poly blend there.
And I have recently learned that Jason Momoa not from there. Just had it in my mind he was because he looks like Steven Adams.
Right?
Well,
Looks like he plays for the All Blacks.
you guys blew my mind when he's got the tattoos too, and you're
Well, I
like,
mean,
yeah, it looks.
he is of the people.
When I found out like he played high school soccer with Superman, I was like, what?
He was born in
I-
Hawaii.
Yeah. Which is not New Zealand,
No,
but he went to high school in like Iowa.
Halfway there.
Can you imagine?
Sure. Wow, Rust.
Imagine.
Like I wonder why foreigners say dumb Americans. He's like, basically, he's born in Hawaii.
It was an island.
You know? His last name's Momoa. He's basically New Zealand. Huh? Yeah, there's only 9 more hours via plane that you have to fly to.
Whatever. It's like horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Close enough.
You're actually not wrong, too. It's like 9 more hours. It's a long flight.
I know. It's incredible. All right. We've covered a lot. None of it has been sports related, but we got a big sports day for you because Portland Trailblazers pick up a big win. We've got Beavers and Cougs news today. We've got National Signing Day, and I think it is the early signing period. People are still trying to adjust to it, and it's been a big day for the Ducks. It has been a big day for the Huskies, too. So we'll go over local guys, where they are landing, and the national stage, and kind of what recruiting is shaping up to be, because February is in the rearview mirror. National Signing Day is today, and this is where all of the top prospects are going, and we'll keep you up to date on all of those. But where we got to start this bad boy off is, hey, that was a great win last night, and I think we need to give credit where credit it's due. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. of pointing in the same direction that this is a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
They're not actively trying to win games, and we're taking this young roster for what it is. But what we saw last night, it deserves to be discussed and talked about because of the fact that that was a good win for the Portland Trailblazers. It wasn't a game where they were playing a top team in the Western Conference, and albeit Bradley Beal was out, but he's been out, I don't know, the whole time. But how many games he even played?
3, 4.
Five.
It's very few.
It's not a lot.
Yeah. Between his ankle and his back, he hasn't played much.
They played a Phoenix Suns team that did they play their best basketball? Absolutely not. But the Blazers played really well, and they withstood a 40-point performance from Kevin Durant, and they won with balance. It wasn't just like a game where you're just hucking it up and it turned into like a 140 to 138 game. It was actually balanced basketball and good basketball that the Blazers were playing last night.
With the exception of the first quarter where they had 10 turnovers, Scoot Henderson had 5 of them.
Absolutely.
They treated the ball like a grease pig in the first quarter, and it was egregiously bad basketball because I think going back and watching the tape after the game last night, I think I charted 2 quote unquote forced turnovers.
But I think that also goes to Portland just chopping away.
Yeah.
Chopping away and continuing to kind of plug along throughout the course of a game. Because that score went from like even to all of a sudden I looked up and I'm like, how in the hell did Phoenix get 28 points? Like they went from like 8 to 8 to 28 to 12.
36 to 20 after one. And it was like, because the Suns don't need any help.
They fill it up, dude.
You let KD get out on a 2-on-1 break. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to be down more points. And it's interesting. KD finished, like you said, with 40.
Yeah. And
I actually thought the Blazers did a really good job on KD. It's just that's what he is.
Yeah.
Something happened last night. It's a bit like an eclipse. It's like you want. It's cool to be around when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant's step back leaning fadeaway got blocked by Jeremy Grant. And it was like, oh. It was like it's like seeing God bleed.
Yeah, and that was great when
you never see that happen.
You were at the game, so I don't know if you heard this Tom Habistro quip about that. That is the first time that KD has had a long 2-point shot blocked since Jeremy Grant did it.
So he's got his timing down from Team USA.
He's the only guy who has blocked KD's step back fadeaway 3. Like, it's incredible.
That tracks.
And you do not see it very often.
AD used to have that timing with LaMarcus, because I remember LaMarcus's turnover, his shoulder, turn, lean, and fade. It was AD's either rookie or second year, and LaMarcus hit him with it once. And I was like, the brow at that point in time, just uber athletic and long, just rail thin. I'm like, yeah, you got no chance, young blood. Next time down, hit him with it again, and AD blocked it. And I was like, oh, no. Because it's one of those things you just don't see happen. But the Blazers gathered their stuff together in the second quarter. Shaedon Sharpe did not finish the game. He came out. For those that are wondering, he's been banged up, and not just for a couple of games. He's been banged up for about 10 days. So even even in his good performances, even in his good performances, he was still fighting it. He's been trying to play through it, he wants to play. Chauncey said pregame, when we asked if he was going to go, he's like, Shea, he's always going to try to fight through it. And you can never tell on his face, but he tried to take a charge, and he was in this restricted area from Yusuf Nurkic, and Nurk landed on him, and that was the end of his night. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him out for a couple games just to make sure he gets right. But it did shorten up the rotation a little bit, which kind of gave some stability to how they're doing things. You had longer stints with Malcolm Brogdon on the floor, which raises your floor. He was huge in the second half. Ant could not hit the broadside of the barn in the first half, but the difference between Anthony Simons this year and in the past is he's getting the offense going, playmaking. He finished the night with 7 assists. I believe his potential assists last night were like 15. The Blazers missed a lot of shots, particularly in the first half when he was setting them up. And that is a new kind of leap for Simons, is getting the offense going.
Not just creating for himself.
Yes, and he's He's actually been really good at it since he's come back. But the most important thing that we saw last night was, for the first time, really, Simons and DA working in the pick and roll and pounding it over and over and over and over. And even though Ayton struggled from the field, 6 of 18, the 18 is more important than the 6. He finally got shots up. And there wasn't a shot last night that he took where I was like, that's a bad shot. He had probably 6 roll out where he could have had a monster night.
He also missed, like, there's a 17-footer that he took it where it was like he threw it basically off the back of the rim. I was like, God, what was that? But he also, you're starting to see the comfort of playing together, which they haven't had. And again, don't overreact to any games. Again, this is our daily disclaimer of the Blazers. Take it for what it is in the little steps that you see.
The growth that you see in a game. This is the 4th game that Ant and DA have played together.
Because in a vacuum, like, you can get caught up. They beat the Suns. That's great. Now, don't overreact to that.
Suns are kind of going through it right now, much like last year when I said that win against the Suns isn't very good.
But any win against anybody at this point is good for the Blazers. But and on the back end of a 7-game losing streak, right, where you're falling to a 12-point hole at halftime, despite playing better in the second quarter, I think those signs of progress that you see, one, Anthony Simons and what you just talked about, where he goes through it in the first half, it's not falling for him. Things are looking clunky. And then they come out in the third quarter like gangbusters.
And they just beat them to a bloody pulp, 38-20.
That's that keep chopping away. And how many teams do we see that are in a middle of a tank, in the middle of a rebuild, and going through a 7-game losing streak, they just throw their hands up and say, here we go again. And that, to me, is a signal, and also at the end of the game on how they played, and I'll get to that, but this is also all kind of that signal that Chauncey Billups and his messaging is actually resonating with his guys.
Yeah.
Because they are still playing hard. They are still fighting. And then you see that the mistakes that had repeated themselves earlier, slowly but surely, as they get the lineup back together, they're going to be able to work through some things. Now, you want to see consistency with that, but like what we saw late in game, Chauncey Billups, again, doesn't call a timeout late in the game last night. Lets his guys work through some stuff. It backfired against Golden State. But you want to take one thing from one game to the next and say, look, I appreciate that when you have a roster like this that is young, a roster that hasn't played a whole lot of games together to this point.
Got to work through some stuff.
What Chauncey Billups is letting them do is figure it out at the end of games. He's not trying to call the timeout to micromanage, because if you're a roster that is ready to win now, you're fighting and you're going to be saying, hey, at the end of the year, we're going to be scratching for a playoff.
Sure.
At that point, you go, timeout, let's draw something up,
Let's
right?
make sure we're structured here, like exactly what we want to do, how we want to do it, when we want to do it, and make sure everybody's on the same page. We're good to go.
But now it is that with this team and what they're trying to do this year, it's, hey,
see what you can do.
Let them success or fail, and then we can go back and we can start correcting things.
You can watch the film and go, okay.
And I'm actually, like, I'm encouraged by that.
And I'm in favor of it in this sense, and I agree with Chauncey in this sentiment. One of the things that he has challenged, particularly the guards with, and Shea, Scoot, is he doesn't tell them what went wrong right away.
Yeah.
He asks them, what did you see?
Yep.
And then he lets them tell him what they see, and then he goes, okay, good. But what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
What about this?
Guys,
what about this?
It's called coaching.
Yeah. And
he's doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like, look, I still don't think Billups is the best coach on the face of the planet, but he's significantly better than he was in the past. And the most important thing is, for me, there's buy-in. They listen. They're there. I mean, last night, Jabari made a mistake on a rotation, and everybody's like, oh, Chauncey's too cool. The camera doesn't always pick up the coach. Chauncey lit Bari up for a good 15 seconds up and down the floor. I mean, just cussing him up and down. It was yep, Jabari didn't make the rotation there. Got it. Point taken. But like, everybody's like, oh, Chauncey's too cool for school and all this. And that's actually something that, on the flip side, that Chauncey has mentioned with this team and their poor starts. They need to develop that internal motor, that nastiness, is that he said pregame, coincidentally enough, that he thinks he has too many guys in the starting lineup that they're just kind of too cool. And not in a bad way. They're just JG, all vibes. DA, all vibes. Ant, Shea. I mean, like, Tomani's got a little bit of nastiness to him, but he's a rookie. But nobody in that starting lineup is a talker. And Ant's trying to get better about that, and you're starting to see more of it. Shea says 3 words a night. JG, like, he'll bring guys together. DA is like more of like a lieutenant as opposed to, a captain, or like he'll back you up on some stuff, but he's not going to initiate anything. So that's the kind of thing that they need to figure out, is even though there's a pecking order now, this is kind of quote unquote Ant's team, but like there needs to be, like, Ant needs to put his stamp on it. And you saw that kind of last night with him hitting the game winning shot and being willing to take that on that mantle.
And I also think that that's big for him to go down the spiral in the first half
and then crawl out of it
by really leading it into that fourth quarter. It was what you were talking about, the creation offensively, not for himself, but for others too. And
whipping it to
involved.
DA in the pocket, finding Malcolm Brogdon on the backside.
And this is another small thing that you take and you say, all right, put this in the memory bank, see if we have consistency with it. Very first possession of the game, there's 5 or 6 passes before they whip the ball around at the top of the arc for Jeremy Grant to hit a wide open 3.
There was a play actually that was supposed to be for DA.
And this is kind of where you say, all right, all of the people in that are saddling Chauncey Billups with all of these losses, that was a Chauncey Billups win. Because if we're going to saddle him with the losses, let's give him this one, because the quote unquote ISO ball that has been bogging this team down. You saw a lot of 2-man game, which is okay, between DA and Ant.
That's what the offense is going to be predicated on, because they're really good. Ant, for all of it, you can love Ant, hate Ant, whatever you want to believe. He's one of the most efficient. Like, this is the same thing I said about Dame. Everyone's like, well, he needs to work off ball. No, he doesn't. When you're this good at what you do, no, you don't.
But then on top of that, if the offense runs the process of what the offense is, and the players actually do it, it's going to make the coach look a lot better, right? So all of that finger pointing, it was like, that felt like a Billups win. They chopped away. They stood firm, I guess, during the storm in the avalanche that came down on them in the first quarter.
That is Kevin Durant.
They chopped away at it, and they ended up finding a way to win a basketball game that they have not before. And this is all to say, don't overreact. It is not a massive indicator of what this team is, but there was a lot of things that you can put in that memory bank from last night's game that were really good for the Portland Trailblazers.
And it was good for the vibes. They needed the win.
They needed that win. Yeah, Anthony Simons after the game in his interview with Brooke, and he was just like, we needed this. Like, this is
seven losses in a row, especially what, 3-4, like, you were in it games.
And they figured it out. Yeah. All right. Well, brace ourselves for another 7-game losing streak.
No. Wizards tomorrow. They're really bad. Please don't lose that game.
No.
Won a couple against the Spurs coming up, too.
Yeah, 28th and 30th. Yeah. We'll get Wemby Mania.
Well, a lot of National Signing Day news for you as this show goes on. Our BetQL Network insider, the host of BetMGM tonight, Ryan Horvat, he is set to join us at 1:30 if our phones cooperate. But coming up next, big news right before the show broke about the Beavs and the Cougs. You'll hear it, and we'll dive into it after Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Stanford's. This classic American steakhouse has exactly what you've been craving. Visit them in Clackamas, Tanasbourne, or online at stanfords.com. First on The Fan, college football's early signing period has begun, and the Oregon Ducks already making waves, flipping Ohio State commit 4-star receiver Jeremiah McClellan among the other signees. Defensive lineman Elijah Rushing and Aiden Breland. And the Ducks also get a commit from Kansas State and all Big 12 safety Kobe Savage. Over in the NFL, the Jets have activated quarterback Aaron Rodgers to the 53-man roster so he can continue to practice as part of his rehab process despite being out for the rest of the season. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel says quarterback Will Levis won't practice today due to an ankle injury. Ryan Tannehill will get first-team reps and would start Sunday against Seattle if Levis can't go. Saints head coach Dennis Allen says receiver Chris Olave will play tomorrow night against the Rams as he battles an ankle injury. When asked about head coach Arthur Smith, Falcons owner Arthur Blank said they are committed to the coach, but added that after the season, they will, quote, assess where we are and go from there. NFL Network reporting Eagles guard Landon Dickerson having thumb surgery today and will miss Sunday's game against the Giants. And on the hard court, Trailblazers off tonight after hanging on to beat the Suns last night, snapping that 7-game skid. Hosting the Wizards tomorrow, the Blazers and Grizzlies are tied for the league's fourth worst record at 7-19. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rush at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Your home for bowl games and the college football playoff. The Odyssey app and Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
When people
another sign of good news to come and figuring out the future, as both the Beavs and the Cougs will be joining the West Coast Conference as affiliate members for basketball, baseball, basically all of your Olympic sports and not football.
Baseball's still TBD.
Oh, baseball's still TBD?
Yeah, baseball might be a holdout like football.
Playing independent baseball schedule, huh?
Well, here's the thing.
What? Because the initial report that I saw right as we were coming on was baseball as well, but that has changed, huh?
That was
The one I had
That's good news.
had baseball hanging out. Still.
All right. Well, good.
But the thing about Oregon State
Actually,
baseball is it should go wherever it's the best offer because they are a blue blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if it's some version of the Pac-12 or whatever, if it's some version of the West Coast Conference, if it's some version of another conference, they should just go wherever baseball makes the most sense for them.
And I don't think that it is. If you've ever looked at how baseball schedules are made up, it's not out of the realm of possibility to do that.
No.
To go down that.
You get series games. It's it's not a big deal as far as travel's concerned. When you travel, you travel.
And it's all about where can you get your RPI up, because RPI means so much when you're looking at baseball and seeding and all that stuff. And that would be a fascinating one. And what Chip Kelly said was right. After their bowl game, when he's like, UCLA basketball should be playing Arizona in basketball.
Yes.
Softball should be playing Arizona. Like, Oregon State should play every single year Arizona State, USC, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach State. Just go and play the best.
Yeah.
Right? Have that be your plan. And I think that everything is okay. Having the landing spot in the West Coast Conference for basketball is fantastic for them because you do get a lot of pedigree because of Gonzaga,
St. Mary's,
BYU, or I guess they're Big 12 now.
Yeah.
But San Francisco has had a good squad over the last couple of years. I'm not quite sure where they're at. But you always have Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and then there's one team that pops up, whether it's USD years ago or San Francisco will pop up and they'll be competitive. Pepperdine should be good, but somehow they're never good, Lorenzo Romar. But the West Coast Conference, temporary landing spot for basketball especially, that's great for Oregon State and Washington State because competitively you're going to be on par with the middle of the pack, right? You're not Gonzaga. Hell, very few programs in the Pac-12 were Gonzaga.
No.
But competitively, you're going to be competitive, stacking up against, your University of Portland's of the world and, the USDs and such. But on top of that, you're regionalized too. And you're not going all over the place.
No, I mean you're quite literally on the West Coast, where your furthest north school is Gonzaga, and then their furthest south school is San Diego. I mean and everything else is you're not even you're only playing in 3 different states. You're
Perfect.
There's no Utah, there's no Nevada, there's no Idaho, so it makes sense. So
I really like this because I was reading the athletic report. Nicole Auerbach had it first, and she just kind of buried it in there about baseball. But I do believe that Oregon State is a program that can say, F it, we're going to go non-traditional route with our baseball team. Because you're not playing a ton of home games in March and April.
Yeah.
That just go on the road during those times. Go and say, hey, LSU, we're coming to you. Mississippi State, Florida, we're coming to you. And then, hey, see if you can return the favor maybe with the boatloads of cash that you're getting from the other 10 schools.
yeah. Hey, Vandy, you want to come up here?
Yeah. How great would that be? That would be awesome if you could just have those
Problem
things.
is I don't know if those schools want them coming down there.
But then you could sprinkle in, University of Portland, Oregon baseball, play the local schools and then say, all right.
Then run the
we're
Cal
gonna go.
State circuit.
Yeah. Yeah. And for Washington State, for your baseball program, they've had their ups and downs.
Sure.
They used to be really good.
Yeah. 25, 30 years ago.
John Olerud.
No, I mean they did have a solid program in the late 80s into the 90s, and then it honestly the rise of Oregon State they pretty much capitalized anything that's in the Northwest is theirs now.
Yeah. Well, Washington baseball is really good.
Yeah,
too.
but
like the Big Ten with Oregon, Washington,
yeah.
USC, and UCLA.
The baseball they just got through the roof.
If those aren't the top 4 teams in that league every year, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And trajectory-wise, they are just like Indiana baseball's gone through had their up. You'll see Michigan peak every now and then, but the four West Coast schools should run the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But for Oregon State and Washington State, again, this is that another step of saying, hey, we may be alone out here. The Pac-2 may just be us and the Cougs, but we're going to find our homes in every other spot temporarily. And look, the news out of the ACC today is Cal and Stanford are probably going, uh-oh.
What do we get ourselves into?
Oh, but they could also say, hey, we got 2 schools out west because Florida State is setting up to leave the ACC.
Yeah.
They're still, they are still really upset.
They are dead set, particularly
that they
after
got
the playoffs.
hosed.
Yeah. Because if they're an SEC team, they're not getting hosed there.
No, but they're also not 13-0, and we know that. And they're not winning the conference championship game because they're not playing Louisville. We know that.
There.
we know that is not happening because like Florida State fans can be mad and they can yell at the sky all they want and say, we got hosed. We went 13-0. We deserve to be there. And you can have a point on that. But you cannot say you honestly watched your offense the last 2 games of the year, especially in the conference championship game, and said that offense operates at a level of the top 4 teams in the country. And the playoff committee did their job.
That's fair. As it pertains to Oregon State, Washington State, the even though they won't be full-fledged members, they'll be kind of a step down in the WCC. They will appear and chase for the conference title.
That is
important, and it also means that if they do win the conference title, they will be eligible for AQ or automatic qualifier bids to the NCAA tournament.
And that's
a big deal.
That is a very big deal. The WCC is probably looking at it like, I'm looking at your 2 programs right now and saying good luck.
We're not worried about this, but
for the temporary time that is. Yeah. But hey, look.
But this is also a program that was in the Elite Eight 4 years ago.
Wayne Tinkle, when his back's against the wall, he finds a way to get those teams going, you know? But I think for women's basketball and women's sports, I think that is very big for them because both the Cougs, like if you saw Washington State's volleyball program, dynamite. And if you see Oregon State's women's basketball team and what they have done in the past, maybe not to the extent of where they're at now, but Scott Rueck still is a really good coach. You can have your successes there. And then also, if you're an automatic qualifier, I'm assuming that means that you're eligible for their units that they get moving forward, right? If you win in the NCAA tournament, the West Coast Conference units, then you share those. So that would be massive. I still don't understand how the Pac-2 is going to operate as a conference if you're saying, yeah, we get the automatic qualifier from that conference, but we're still going to take the revenues. I don't know. It's only for 2 years. Yeah. They'll figure it out. Math.
It's funny money at this point.
But it's a bright spot and good news for both the Cougs and the Beavs in a time that has not been that great for either one of those programs.
I did see that they ranked as 1 and 2 in the Pac-12 recruiting rankings.
Hey.
I think that's too soon. That was too soon.
I did.
You just got like somebody is swearing at Jeff Rust right now.
Hey, at least this time it's not. At least this time it's not my wife.
Yeah. The interesting thing is about
now your wife is mad at you. You just got your wife and all of these Oregon State and Washington State fans mad at you.
Banner day.
God bless you. I have a couch you can sleep on because I don't even think you're going to be able to sleep on your couch.
You get a casting couch here.
Whoa.
Oh, what? What's interesting
and
about
all the cameras you need, bud.
I don't feel good.
Angles.
I think all the people watching that YouTube feed would feel the same way, Russ.
Angles. What's interesting is I was looking at a couple of recruiting services websites, and you can sort by conference. I was like, I wonder what happens. And I clicked Pac-12, and it was all the teams.
Yeah.
I'm like, but they aren't there next year. Why? What?
Yeah, you go
why
to.
Haven't you changed?
But if you go to like the Big Ten rankings, like on 24/7 or whatever, Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA are
all
the Big
there.
Ten. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're all.
They're already taking that credit.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. If you want to scroll down in the ACC, you can find Cal and Stanford too.
Oh wow.
What?
How far down do you have to scroll?
A ways. A ways. All right, 503-864-6326. That be the Vancouver Ford text line. We've got an update to a story that is gripping the nation next on The Fan. He made the unpaid
Yeah,
appearance.
that's called shame.
Yeah, but look, I'm Italian. My family's Italian. My mom's maiden name is Nanetti. Like, we come from a long line of petty Italian folks. We don't get shamed very easily. And Tommy DeVito was like, okay, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do it.
Cost himself $10,000.
But he did the right thing. And he's going to open up more opportunities. But I said this yesterday, like, I don't blame him for trying to capitalize on
That's not the one you capitalize on.
I know.
The mom and pop pizzeria is not the one you double your appearance fee on.
But I understood where he was coming from in the money grab that is.
Oh, yeah.
But
I get that.
at the same time, I also appreciate he's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do good by it, because we have seen, and you know this, there have been a lot of guys that have come through Portland Trailblazers that if they weren't getting paid, they weren't doing squat for you.
Nope.
They weren't showing up, and you could try to shame them, and they had
Did
no
not
shame.
matter.
They were like, no, I want that. I want the check. I'm
There's
not
an
showing
appearance
up.
fee.
Yeah.
See, I have a feeling that his agent, though, went rogue on the old double the fee thing.
Double the fee. Well,
Yeah.
we wanted his cut.
What about that man would make you think that?
Just everything. I did see his picture from his college playing days with the frosted tips.
My man was working it.
Hey, the early 2000s were a
He looked
different
like,
time.
Homeboy from NSYNC. What's his name? JC?
Don't shame that. Mike Norvell is the head coach of Florida State. That man had cornrows as the quarterback of Central Arkansas, okay?
Cornrows at Central Arkansas, huh?
A white guy with cornrows at Central Arkansas. The early 2000s were a hell of a time, and we should not blame anybody for their hairstylings. Just like the 80s, right? When people were rocking flock of seagulls or just feathering everything. It is a time, you can't go back 20 years and start criticizing people for their hair. Not that I had hair that could be criticized at all.
Hey, me and my not so slim shady bleached hair.
Yeah, the bleached hair.
I couldn't be criticized either.
Yeah, don't shame puka shells. They're coming back. They're coming back, all right? But Tommy DeVito showed up at the pizzeria. He did his thing, and he did it for free. So Tommy Cutlets is a good guy. He's a good guy.
Well, at least he's pretending to be one.
That's fine. At least he's doing the right things, right? You know, how many guys do we know that would just say, "No, I'm gonna make that money and I'm gonna get out of here"? So he showed up at that New Jersey pizzeria, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it, Tommy Cutlets. I also went to the zoo. I need to post this picture. I went to Zoo Lights before a Blazer game last night, and they got a gorilla who I think he's doing the Tommy Cutlets. They have like a gorilla in lights, and he's doing the Tommy Cutlets. I'm going to post it at Danny Dusty and at Dusty_Hera.
That's what that is.
He's doing like the touchdown, the Tommy Cutlets touchdown dance. What do you think he's doing?
Nope.
Flipping the bird? I think he's flipping the bird too. But I'm going to go ahead and say he's doing the Tommy Cutlets.
Okay.
Just scored a touchdown.
Okay.
All right.
The guy's actually secretly a Giants fan.
The guy who puts up the lights is like, you know what? Yeah, I got this one.
I'm going to sneak in some Tommy Cutlets.
He may just be Italian.
Yeah.
You never know.
A bobbity boobity.
You never know.
Apparently, Stellato played 2 seasons in AF2, the Arena Football League, too.
Yeah.
Secondary Arena League.
And has written 2 books. Fourth and Long, The Odds, My Journey, and No Backing Down. Both about his life and sports. No Backing Down was featured in the Patriots Hall of Fame in 2015.
Oh, boy.
That's
With the New England Patriots Hall of Fame?
It just says Patriots, but I'm assuming that's got to be something related to Marist.
yeah.
Is it Marist University? Is that their mascot?
I don't know.
I don't think they're the Patriots. They're the Red Foxes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
well,
a great name.
Yeah.
Not just the Foxes, but the Red Foxes.
Yeah.
I prefer Silver Fox myself, but hey.
Silverton Silver Foxes. Huh?
Yeah.
A lot of dads out there. A lot of.
Why are there so many single moms out here?
Why are there a lot of divorced dads at this high school football game? I heard this is where the Silver Foxes go for football. All right, so Tommy DeVito, our nation's long nightmare is over. He went to the pizza shop, and I don't know what he did there, but he did it for free. All right, let's get to National Signing Day. A big day for the Oregon Ducks. Not so pretty for a lot of other programs across the country. We will get to the Ducks, the Beavs, what's going right, what's going wrong for both of those programs next. Danny Dusty on the Fan. on YouTube, thank you. Thank you. Is Twitch up yet?
No.
We're not twitching yet.
No, we're going to do it after we come back. Just because
Yeah, that's a
there's
good call.
only one show.
That's a good call.
So
Yeah. That's a good call. All right.
I made an executive decision.
You are an executive.
I am.
You are the chief officer of social media at 1080 The Fan.
Indeed.
And if that wasn't your title,
It is now.
is now.
Updated my LinkedIn.
I heard it on the radio.
I heard somebody say it.
It's there. It's there. People are saying. People are saying. All right. It is National Signing Day across college football, and what a day it has been. This is flip season, and I don't remember a day where we have seen so many flips happen just like in a row, and they are spanning the country. Like we have seen where specific schools, right? Georgia or Alabama will just come in, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, they swooped this guy up. Oh, they swooped this guy up. I think this is the power of NIL, and I think this is a really good thing about NIL, is that everybody's like, it's going to consolidate the power of the top programs. And to an extent, it has. But what it has also done is it has leveled a playing field from like 6 to 8 schools to expanding it out to, 16 to 20 schools that are now picking guys off left and right. And NIL is a big driving force in that. And that cannot be ignored. And look, NIL is also good because programs like Oregon State, with what they did with DJ Uiagalelei last year, they can go and they can pull some money and say, hey, we got a quarterback that can guide our offense, and we were in a pinch. We figured that thing out. NIL has helped a lot. But what we are seeing now is some schools are thriving in the world of NIL. Some are failing miserably. And one school that is thriving, and it should be no surprise because of the deep pockets that they have, the Oregon Ducks have put themselves together quite the recruiting class.
Yeah, as they get ready to transfer into the Big Ten, they're filling holes and bolstering depth all across the field.
It does not feel like they are quite done yet either. If you are following along in the recruiting circles and all that, they have made a few flips today and at positions of need heading into today. The Ducks really, it was like they felt really good in the recruiting insiders. And we'll have Andrew Nemec on of the recruiting show with Andrew Nemec. He will join us at 2:00 to talk about the specifics of all the details of flips and non-flips. But when they were entering the day, Jack Ressler, receiver out of Mater Dei down in California, he was like the only guy that the recruiting insiders were really confident that Oregon was going to sign as a wide receiver this year. As it turned out, they were able to hold on to a commitment from Dylan Gresham, who is out of Southern California, a wide receiver. I don't know where he's from. That's not good. I'm spacing on it.
I got nothing for you.
San Jacinto?
Was it Gresham?
Yeah. They hold on to him because USC was coming at him hard. Arizona was making a push at the end. They end up...
San Jacinto.
Okay. Yeah. I knew it was somewhere
One of the
down
Sands.
there.
Yeah.
They were able to hold on to him. He's a 5-star receiver. They are able to flip Ohio State commit Jeremiah McClellan, who's a 4-star receiver that, look, Ohio State was high on. If you have seen the track record of Ohio State and what Brian Hartline has done recruiting that room for the Buckeyes, they don't miss very often. They were able to flip him, and they have officially gotten his paperwork in. And then they go and they get a flip from USC where they go out and they get Ryan Pelham out of Long Beach, California, Millikan High School. They flip another 4-star receiver, and all of a sudden that position of need where they needed to bolster it because of, Troy Franklin, Trayshawn Holden, they're starting to fill that room back up.
Yep.
With high-end talent.
And that's the thing. Anytime you have a great team, and this is what that's kind of the signs are, you look at a Georgia, you look at Alabama, you look at Ohio State, you look at Michigan. Yeah, you can have great classes, but you better be backfilling. You better have that depth. You better have, and the thing is, it's not in the past where you used to target positions every other year.
Yeah.
You've got to do it every year now because transfer portals, guys leaving early. You never know what's going to happen. And the interesting thing is you look at the top. I saw something come across a ticker. I think it was the top 25 or the top 50 prospects in the country. They're spread all over the country. They aren't all in the SEC anymore.
Yep.
They aren't all at Georgia, Alabama anymore. You're seeing them at Texas, at Georgia, at Alabama, at Ohio State, at Michigan, but you're also seeing them pop up in random places. And this started, in a sense, a couple years ago when Travis Hunter decided to go to Jackson State. And so people are wondering, is this going to be like a new mold? And I don't know if it's necessarily a new mold yet, but if you want to go somewhere and make some money and be a featured guy, which we can all agree, Travis Hunter went to Colorado, and my God, was he featured.
Yeah.
Now, he got beat up and he got hurt because he was playing 160 snaps a game, but he is a household name.
He is.
He is a household name on both sides of the ball, and he's making himself a ton of money in NIL, and he's also putting an obscene amount of tape down for the NFL.
Yeah. I think also, like, if you look at Oregon specifically and what they've been able to do with recruiting balance in this class, look, you got quarterback of the future, Luke Moga. He's signed, sealed, delivered, even though, look, I bet a lot of schools are trying to make that push after they get Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, but there was never a doubt that he was going to be signing elsewhere other than Oregon. Look at where, after Mario Cristobal left, it was, okay, can they keep it up with recruiting in the trenches, especially on the offensive line, right? They were able to hold on to Jaquan McCroy, who got that big push from Deion Sanders in Colorado, and he was not flipped. He's the 80th overall prospect in the country, and I believe the 6th best tackle in the country. You're able to hold on to him, and you're able to get high-quality offensive line play. Fox Crater, the kid out of Evergreen, right up here in Vancouver. They get the kid out of West Salem, the big offensive lineman who's very raw.
Big old boy, though.
He is very, very raw, in Trent Ferguson. But then out of the portal, they were able to get the Bedford kid out of Indiana a couple of days ago. You're seeing that they are still recruiting the offensive line very well. What Dan Lanning has always hung his hat on, being a defensive guy, they get Breland, the defensive lineman out of Mater Dei. They hold on to Elijah Rushing, who they flipped in the summer from Arizona. They pull him out of Tucson. He's both those guys, Breland and Rushing, have been upgraded to 5-star prospects by 24/7, which I always find interesting that on signing day, guys all of a sudden get a bump up. Who the hell knows with that kind of stuff?
Weird how that works.
But you are finding guys that where they are continually getting doubles or homers in the trenches on both sides of the football. They have balance in this class. It's a good class for Oregon. I believe that when you account the transfer portal in their overall, they're either 4th or 5th. This thing just keeps jostling back and forth between them and Ohio State. But this is going to go down as the best recruiting class in Oregon history. And Dan Lanning has done it again, because guess what last year was? The best recruiting class in Oregon history. There's the potential that this thing does land and settle inside the top 5. And there's still those rumblings out there that they may not be done yet.
They're currently 4th with the adjustments of the 2 recent flips.
Well, and Kobe Savage, too, the safety out of who has, by the way, the best name of anybody I've seen in the portal. Kobe Savage, the safety out of Kansas State. That's a badass name. I mean, you get the Mamba and his last name is Savage. What?
Yeah, no, it's good parenting.
This was you're getting the flips, and you're not on the wrong side of those flips. And I think that, Washington fans have said this. Junior Adams, the wide receivers coach at Oregon, he is a very good recruiter. He's the guy that recruited that room that you're seeing starring right now at the University of Washington. He is a phenomenal recruiter. We're seeing that. The knock on him was by Washington fans, like, well, he couldn't develop those guys. Look what happened after he left. Well, okay, they also grew into their bodies and figured out football, and it takes 2 years to truly figure out how to play the game at the collegiate level. Especially when you're a wide receiver and you're being asked to do what those UW receivers are being asked to do. It is so hard for a freshman to pop. Or even a sophomore.
Oh, God.
Mentally, what you were asked to do from high school to college, it's not even on the same plane.
It's another universe. Yeah. And that's why when you see freshmen that are truly great, no matter what position they play. It's just different.
Yeah.
And you go, and even if it's something as simple as a running back.
Yeah. Running back is probably the easiest mentally, but physically, it's really damn hard.
It's really hard to do that. So when you see a guy like a Damian Martinez or a Jaden Ott, if you go back in time, a Marshawn Lynch, when you are Maurice Claret, when you see guys that are truly transcendent freshman players,
Yeah.
it's your eyes go, oh, okay, you're different, especially if they're not a guy who's like a late 19-year-old freshman.
Yeah.
You know, the near 20-year-old freshmen. That was a little more common when you and I were growing up. The held back for a year and a half situation where it's like, it's a really big 18-year-old. He'll be 20 next month.
Yeah, but you know what? Genetics matter because I was held back.
Was it quite as helpful?
No. But I was 19 when I graduated high school.
There you go.
But it is, like, even those guys, like, it takes a little bit longer, man. But they are... Oregon had one hell of a class, and as the text line points out, Jericho Johnson, who is going to be signing, I believe, is he tomorrow at 3? He is another defensive lineman that Oregon they're circling him. And I also think that when you look at some of these guys that they're flipping, it also can tell you the picture of maybe some of the portal receivers. They're like, all right, we're not going to be in the running for. I saw that just yesterday. Texas A&M's stud receiver, who now everybody from like the 2021 class at A&M is like gone, or 2022 class, they're all gone.
The one that they paid all that money for.
They're all gone. Like all of them are gone.
which was an open question. If all of these guys just came for the money, and then the valve gets cut off, what will happen?
Yeah, but at that point, though, you look at your production and how many guys have been reliable. Like the Texas A&M guys, they're all guys that are starting and playing. Look at the portal and look at the guys who are leaving. Are they those guys, or are they the guys that have seen their jobs get
Snatched
swooped up?
Yeah.
Like Triquiz Bridges is a good example of Oregon, who has now found his landing spot. He's at Florida. I think he committed to Florida over the weekend. Like,
No way a long, rangy DB ended up at Florida,
yeah,
huh?
Weird, huh?
Weird.
Who is really? He's still really damn good.
It's a great
right?
landing spot for him.
It is a fantastic.
It's a fantastic landing spot for him.
But that is, you're starting to see it. It should not be a surprise to anybody, right? Look at the schools that are in the top 5 right now on the 24/7. You said Oregon was at 4?
Yeah, the live update had them at 4.
So they're the number 1 is Georgia, number 2 is Alabama, number 3 is Texas, and Oregon is 4.
As of right now, Georgia is 1, Alabama 2, Ohio State 3, Oregon 4, Texas 5, Florida State 6, and then Miami, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame.
Of that top 5,
they have fallen 10 spots to 15.
We need to talk about that because that is something right there.
Yeah.
Of those top 5, how many of them of the head coaches of the top 5 have coached under Nick Saban?
All of them.
4 of the 5, because Ryan Day.
Oh, no, Dave.
Ryan Day's the only one that hasn't. Think about that.
Yeah, no, the Saban coaching tree
Kirby
is
Smart, Steve Sarkisian, and I know Sark was a good recruiter, and he was there as an offensive coordinator. You learn
he went to the rehab school of Nick Saban rehab school. They all did.
In Dan Lanning, right? The recruiting method that Nick Saban has, it is not just a bag. I promise you, it is not.
Everyone
just
has
a bag.
Look, in the top 20 right now, everyone has a bag.
It is connection. It is development, and it is sales. And Nick Saban,
they're Wolf of Wall Street,
knows how to sell his program, and the people that coach under him, they learn.
And he doesn't take every rehab coach.
And if you don't believe that, well, check out what Maryland has been doing in how many guys that they are in the running for. Now, their class is not very good right now. I think they're 46th.
But it's Maryland.
They are Loxley, who was under Nick Saban. He is now starting to try to get a little bit of that footing. And if you've watched and you've kind of followed along, they're not winning all of these battles, and they're not going to because they're Maryland.
Yeah.
They're the salesmanship. Nick Saban has got that secret sauce, and all those guys are taking it, man.
Sark, Kiffin, like guys that I saw at USC and I heard about stuff behind the scenes, they got it. they could sell. And that was honestly the issue with Clay Helton is they couldn't. But you look at all of those guys that have been under Saban. Kirby Smart can sell, man. Dan Lanning can sell. Hell, the first time I met Lanning was at Pac-12 Media Days right after they hired him. I told you as we got done with him, I go, I like him.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing that, what the hell do you think an 18-year-old is doing? Like, they're ready to go. He's got it, man. And like, that's what Alabama does. And it's not greasy. It's not dirty. They know how to do it.
Yep.
There's a formula. There's a rhyme and a reason to what they do and how they do it. And that's how you get guys to go to places. Look, Alabama is a national power and all that. It's still freaking Alabama.
Yep.
Do you know what it's like to get a kid from the West Coast to go to Alabama?
Well, and then what you're able to sell is a lot more than what we like. Hey, come here and sit and develop. That's a hard thing, especially right now, to convince kids to do, especially when they, a school like a Maryland could say, hey, we're going to give you that cash and you can play. And you can play right away. It's recruiting is very tough, and you're starting to see the cream rising to the top. Oregon is currently sitting and nestled in the top 5 with their recruiting class as it stands. They have 23 letters of intent signed, sealed and delivered. They're waiting on a couple of more to come in. The transfer portal has already had 5 guys commit. This is going to be the new age. These monster classes are going to be coming in because you now have caps being pulled back on how many guys you can bring in. And because the transfer portal is saying, hey, a lot of guys are leaving, we're going to bring more guys in. But Oregon, they solidified their class, and there's a lot of balance with it. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, and this is just high school, 5 receivers, 4 linemen, 4 offensive linemen, 5 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, and they are stacked. 4-star recruits. It's been a good day. They currently rank 2nd of Big Ten classes, only behind Ohio State. Let's get to what the Beavs have done, because this could have been disastrous for Oregon State. They made a little bit of footing here with the late pushes at the end. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. that's a big keep for them. That because Colorado was making a big push and they were able to hold on to him along with Dylan Gresham, the wide receiver, who was trying to be poached by USC as well. The Oregon State Beavers, they currently have, and this is going to be, this is interesting.
It's a double-edged sword.
Because they have the coaching turnover.
Mm-hmm.
They have
the conference stuff.
The conference. And then you also have the defections in the portal. They're going to be filling a lot more via portal in the coming days. We've already seen, and I think it's great. They got 7 transfers already coming in, and they're filling gaps on positions of need. Right, you get a pair of linemen from Colorado, you get a defensive lineman and an edge rusher from Indiana and Houston out of the portal. They're trying to fill those spots with guys that can play right away. Right. What I think they've done a really good job of is Trent Bray getting some new guys and new blood into what was going to be a small class anyway. They got 8 guys, I think, right now that have signed their letters of intent. And 2 of them, they've gotten commitments from recently. The running back out of Corona, California Centennial High School, Cornell Hatcher. He's a 3-star guy, but fits the bill. Like
Oregon State's done pretty good. If they identify a running back,
yeah,
I trust the idea. Even with a new staff,
the hardest part though is like, all right, you've got Ryan Gunderson now in, and you're going to be trying to say, all right, we've got a new system, but trust me, you'll fit our system. You'll fit what we're trying to do here. I think they got a really good quarterback in Kalen Guttridge, the Wilsonville guy. They got the local quarterback out of Wilsonville, 5A,
big old lefty.
State player of the year. He is a lefty. Kid can sling it. And
what if they land Murphy?
Malik Murphy out of Tech. That'd be huge, man. That would be huge because is Guttridge a kid who's going to play right away? No. But
it'd be it'd be a huge. It would be
massive.
It would be cool for them in their immediacy, but also would allow their next quarterback to kind of groom up underneath them.
Kalen Guttridge, though, out of Wilsonville, his coach, Adam Gunther, he texted me September and was like, hey, like he's got it.
He's going to pop.
He has got it.
He's a D1
and
guy.
He's been like, he goes, we just need to give him the chance, need to get him the opportunity. And so I started like following him, watching his film on Huddle, and kid can spin it, and he gets the ball out quick,
and he can throw a deep ball. You showed me the clips. He's got a cannon with a touch,
and he's got a size and frame.
Yeah, he's a big old kid.
And the thing that I like appreciate, there's guys that you trust, right? There's always coaches that will just sell anybody. Gunther isn't going to blow smoke. I believe it when he says between the ears, he's got it. That's a good pickup. You're getting that diamond in the rough. They get the Haverland kid, the edge rusher out of Sheldon as well. They're getting the local kids and saying, all right, develop and mold. We may go through it for a little bit, but we're going to develop, and we're getting kids with frame that we feel that can project to be the guys that we want them to be. I like what Trent Bray is doing. Fill the immediate needs through the portal. You're going to have to get a lot more due to the defections, but the developmental guys that they're getting in, offensively especially, it's really hard to get into these homes and sell them, especially this late in the game. We don't have a conference that we're going to, so the first 2 years that you're here, we're going to be playing this hybrid Mountain West schedule,
but it's kind of local.
And then we don't know what the future is going to hold. We're running a new system. The guy who is the brains of our operation is now at Michigan State, and he's taken all of the pieces that we felt were going to be our building blocks moving forward, with the exception of Damian Martinez, who we'll have for a year, which is a good building block to have.
Good block to have.
But he takes Aiden Childs. He takes Jack Velling. He is taking the system with him. Trust us. And that is a really hard thing to recruit against. And so I wouldn't look at your recruiting ranking right now, because Oregon State didn't really much for getting the 4 or 5 star guys anyways, right? I do like the approach that Trent Bray has had, because he's held on to a lot of guys that have been committed for a while. And in a late push, he was able to get a couple of guys that are going to be those diamonds in the rough for Oregon State. Not all hope is lost. We'll talk with Andrew Nemec about it, and we'll get into the weeds on it at the top of the hour, hopefully, with Nemec. But coming up next, we got our man Ryan Horvat.
We do. Coming up next, we do have Ryan Horvat of our BetQL Insider. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
You ever had a Big Kahuna Burger?
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
It's indoor golf season. Check out X Golf in Vancouver or Tualatin, the home of indoor golf, online at xgolfpnw.com. First on The Fan, college football's early signing period has indeed begun. The Oregon Ducks getting a couple of flips. Ohio State commit four-star receiver Jeremiah McClellan has officially signed. Another four-star receiver in USC commit Ryan Pelham has just flipped his commitment. Among the other signees are defensive lineman Elijah Rushing and Aiden Breland. The Ducks also get a commit from Kansas State and all Big 12 safety Kobe Savage. CBS Sports reporting Oregon State and Washington State are expected to join the West Coast Conference in all non-football and baseball Division I sports for the next 2 seasons. Jets have activated quarterback Aaron Rodgers to the 53-man roster so he can continue to practice as part of his rehab despite being out for the rest of the season. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel says quarterback Will Levis won't practice today due to an ankle injury. Ryan Tannehill will get first-team reps and would start Sunday against Seattle if Levis can't go. Saints head coach Dennis Allen says wide receiver Chris Olave will play tomorrow night against the Rams as he battles through an ankle injury. The Trailblazers are off tonight after hanging on to beat the Suns last night, snapping a 7-game skid. They host the Wizards tomorrow night. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Sponsored
app. Also, be sure to listen to BetMGM Tonight podcast for more of Ryan Horvat's analysis. Just search BetMGM wherever you find your podcast. Horvat, how you doing? How is the absolutely, I don't know, sane world of early bowl season treating you?
Yeah, it's been crazy. Like, obviously, some opt-outs, some injuries, coaches leaving last night with, the Frank Harris stuff for UTSA. The line was bouncing all over the place, where at one point I think they were like 12.5-point favorites. They closed as 7-point favorites, and it didn't matter because they won by double digits. So, like, closing line value, a lot of that stuff just doesn't really matter. That's why, man, you really got to be careful with some of these bowl games unless you have really good information or unless you think that there's like a huge drop-off from the starting quarterback to the backup. Like last night was a good example. Frank Harris, he'd been at UTSA for like 7 years, but he's been hurt like all season long, so they played without him, and the backup was just fine. And actually, we got their third-string quarterback. So that's always the crazy part, right, is like, what team cares? Which teams want to be there? You see sometimes like guys on some of these teams on social media, on Instagram the night before, like in Las Vegas at the craps table until 4 a.m. You probably don't want to back that team. So far, so good. I really can't wait to get to the college football playoff because we know what the motivation will be for all those teams.
Yesterday, I just felt old watching Chad Pennington's kid, quarterback Marshall, and then, it was Josh McCown's kid was the quarterback for UTSA. I was just like, oh boy, now these kids are starting in college in bowl games. Is there a game though that you're looking at as you go down? And you mentioned something that always sticks out to me, and I look at for who really wants to be at a bowl game, right? Which teams want to be there, and which ones want to prove a point? Is there a school or a game that is really sticking out to you that, all right, maybe they do want it a little bit more than whoever they're playing?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple schools, like unfortunately, like UCLA already played. I really like that one, but I like Utah State. I have them circled. I really like Arizona. In fact, I've bet Arizona pretty much every week for like the last month and a half, guys, and I think that they'll be extra motivated. I actually faded JMU. I really like Air Force in this game. Now, the number's kind of bouncing around a little bit. If you could get 3, I really like it. That's the other thing. Like, if you miss your number sometimes, you could just wait and bet these games live, if you're capable, of course, of live betting, because sometimes you'll miss the number. A team will go down right away 7-0. And you'll get a better number pop up right away. You're not always that lucky, but I'm actually going to fade JMU. They had a ridiculously good season. They're playing in their first bowl game, so a lot of people are going to bet them. So maybe you wait for the best number. But, I mean, their entire coaching staff is pretty much, gone now. And so they had to, pay a makeshift coaching staff just to coach this game. They lose. Like, a lot of their guys say that they're going to play in this game, but they lose a bunch of their guys, including their starting quarterback. They're all hitting the transfer portal. So I just wonder, what's the motivation? How prepared are they going to be when they're in the transfer portal right now? Probably listening to offers from some of these other schools. So I'm going to fade JMU. And like I said, I really like Arizona. I like Utah State. And then I want to wait and see what happens with Florida State because they got some guys opting out, but I plan on betting Florida State plus 14 and maybe even a little money line as long as they go through with the game. I mean, I know Jared Verse isn't going to play in this game, but they're going to be pissed off. They're going to want to be there. And, it's easy to think, Georgia's going to be motivated. Kirby always has his guys motivated, but who's going to play for Georgia? I'd be shocked to see. You're not going to see Brock Bowers, and I'd be shocked to see a lot of the guys on the defensive side of the ball, too. So I might end up betting Florida State just because of what happened with the College Football Playoff Committee.
I like the Arizona one, too, because they're playing Oklahoma, which they're starting a 5-star quarterback at Oklahoma who's getting his first start because Dylan Gabriel's out. Their left tackle, Caden Green, entered the portal. He's gone. He's going to Missouri. I like that Arizona pick a lot because Jed Fish's defense has been playing lights out down the stretch.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, and like you said with Oklahoma, they kind of faded down the stretch as well. I mean, they didn't really play anybody to start the season, and then they upset Texas, and so we overrated them a little bit, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I like what Brett Venables did because they were so bad. It was only year 2, but they still give up a ton of explosive plays. And like you said, now Dylan Gabriel's gone. They've had some guys hit the transfer portal. Also, they're heading to the SEC next year. I worry. I wonder what the motivation is going to be or how prepared they're going to be for this game. Where with Arizona, man, I mean, this was a team, like you said, with, really well coached. And also their projected win total coming into the season, I believe, was only like 4.5. I went under. And so they're kind of playing with house money right now, man. Like, they're not supposed to be here. So I really do like that pick.
All right, Horvat, we've got a bet here.
Ooh.
A little off the table bet between Dusty, myself, and Jeff Rust, picking Pac-12 bowl game winners. Loser has to have a mustache
For a month,
mustache only. And then for the very last day, the winner of said bet gets to shave that mustache into, I think you can imagine which mustache.
It's whatever mustache the winner deems worthy.
Oh, come on. We all three know what you a-holes are going to do to me.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's going to be gnarly.
So, in that spirit, walk me through your Pac-12 picks so we can kind of get an understanding of where we might have gone right or wrong.
Oh boy.
All right. So let's take a look. I like Louisville against USC. Now, current number, we're all the way out to 7.5. I still like Louisville. Obviously, no Caleb Williams. You got a defense that's pretty much outside the top 100 in every statistical category. So I still like Brahms' squad. I think they're going to be pretty well prepared for this game. So I'll roll with them. Let's see. Who else do we got still to go in this one?
You got Utah Northwestern.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Man, I was supposed to go to that game. I'm going home for the holidays to Chicago, but I was going to stop in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I'm excited for that game. I bet Northwestern. I think Northwestern's going to keep that game close. I mean, man, nobody expected anything from them. Their win total was 2.5. They fired Pat Fitzgerald before the season, and they played really well down the stretch. So I'm actually going to take the points with them. Like I said, I like UCLA against Boise State. We already have that one. The one that's tough for me, so, man, this price is a little inflated. I like what Liberty's done this season. I really like Jamie Chadwell. But Bo Nix is playing in this game. I guess that means he's playing all 4 quarters. So I'll roll with Oregon as 16-point favorites, I guess. But, man, that's so tough because it's such a big number, and I actually like Liberty. That's a big number. And then,
Oregon State, Notre Dame in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
God, this one's so tough for me because I was planning on betting Notre Dame. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I was like, finally a good spot because Oregon State, obviously you have a new coaching staff come in. You have DJU hitting the transfer portal. And I figure, okay, well, Sam Hartman, Notre Dame paid him $2 million to play quarterback. It was kind of a disappointing season, right? And he's not going to be a first-round pick, second-round pick. And for whatever reason, he's not going to play in the bowl game. So they're starting a backup quarterback. So I'm going to take the points actually with Oregon State.
Let's go.
I don't trust Notre Dame, guys. I mean, I'm a huge fan, but I worry a little bit about the secondary. Mitchell Evans, their best player, got hurt. He won't be playing in this game. You got no Sam Hartman. They don't really have any wide receivers. Their best wide receiver this season was a converted running back, Chris Tyree, and he hit the transfer portal. And they just lost their offensive coordinator, too. Yeah. Oh, Oregon State's going to win this game outright.
Wow.
I just talked myself into that.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Now, there's something I wanted to bounce off of you because we have seen something in the NFL that is unheard of. 7 straight Monday night games, we've had the underdog win outright. Is it now time to just fade the favorite in Monday Night Football moving forward? Or do we trust that coming up where we got a triple header that we're going to have some of the favorites actually win the game, if not cover?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten interesting, right? Because the funny thing is favorites have been on a crazy roll the last couple weeks, except for these primetime spots. And so I really feel like it really depends on the matchup. And I do love a good book need. I mean, Monday night with the Seattle Seahawks outright, I was on the Seahawks and I was like, oh man, I made a big mistake. But that's just one of those system plays where the line doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the Eagles, man, they just haven't been the same team this season. Jalen was sick. He hasn't really looked very good. So I liked that spot. Coming up this week, though, man, I mean, it's tough, especially when we get to Christmas night. Because I know that everybody is going to like the San Francisco 49ers, and I completely understand why. But I kind of like Baltimore in this game, especially, man, we're at 5.5. So I think maybe I'll ride with the dog on that one. But I do think that we'll get some favorites cashing, coming up here soon in the right spots. But man, I look at this week and there's a lot of dogs I like. My co-hosts hate this one. I really like the Steelers coming up on Saturday in prime time. I just 2-point dogs. I really wanted to get to 3. They benched Mitchell Trubisky. I know it's, you don't really have an upgrade at the quarterback position, but Mike Tomlin, desperation, spot here. I like the Steelers a lot. So there's another dog I like.
Well, how do you feel about Miami and Dallas? Because you can get that Miami -1.5. Dallas on the road has been a different team. Dak is coming off a terrible game in the rain and the muck. They won't have to worry about inclement weather when you go down to Miami, but they've been a different team on the road.
Yeah, so this is one where I was like, okay, I want to say that this will be a good spot for the favorite because I know that right now the Cowboys are 1.5-point dogs, meaning pretty much it's a pick. I think they're actually going to close as a slight favorite. I might be wrong on that. I just want to wait and see the final injury report. But man, if they get a healthy Micah Parsons against a pretty beat up Dolphins offensive line right now, like the Dolphins have the best center in all football now. He's out for the year. Tyreek Hill's injured right now. On the defensive side of the ball, things are starting to come together. But man, losing Phillips. He's their best pass rusher. That's huge. The problem with the Cowboys is, do you trust them on the road? All their losses this season have come off the road. I'm not going to overreact to what we saw last weekend, though. The reason I bet against them so big with the Bills, they were dealing with the flu bug. Same thing that Jalen Hurts was dealing with, I think. They played each other, but they had 13 guys that were sick all week at practice, and it looked like it. They just didn't look like they wanted to be there. So I think they actually bounced back. I like Miami, but I need to see Miami beat one of these physical teams. In Dallas, I still think, especially the way that they played in that game, I don't know what Mike McCarthy was thinking playing as starters in the fourth quarter, but I think they bounced back. So I do like Dallas. Right now they're slight dogs. I think they might close as favorites. So if you do like them, I'd probably bet them right now. If you like Miami, I might wait and see if you could get a better number, and because they might close as 1.5, 2-point dogs in this spot, actually.
Oof. Spicy. Love it.
It's going to be interesting, a little stretch down the stretch here. Horvat, thanks for joining us, man. Enjoy your time back home, and have a Merry Christmas, man.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good Christmas.
Hey, anytime. You take care. We'll catch up with you next week. That was the host of BetMGM Tonight, and Honesty Sports Betting Insider, Ryan Horvat. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. When we come back, Florida State is still trying to leave the ACC. We'll get to that real quick before we get to Andrew Nemec, our recruiting insider, at 2 o'clock. Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan.
with Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
Oklahoma City Thunder don't care what you think.
No, they don't. This is all-time stupid.
This happened yesterday afternoon. I was at the Blazers game, and there wasn't a single person that worked in basketball that didn't stop and ask, "Did you see what the Thunder tweeted?" And every single person said, "Yes, I did." And there wasn't a single person that was like, "You know what? I see the value in tweeting that." And if you're wondering, just what did the Thunder tweet? It wasn't anything crazy. In the
Yeah, it
grand
was.
scheme of things.
I think it was.
But then you understand why it's so crazy. This is the time of year when all-star voting is open. And they put one out for Shea. They put one out for Chad. They put one out for Josh Giddey, who's currently under investigation for statutory rape.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
What the hell is the benefit? If you're doing a cost-benefit analysis here, where is the benefit? And then everyone's like, "Oh, the social media team." Nope. No. Wrong. This falls on Sam Presti.
Really?
Absolutely. Because if you don't think that, do you think the 30-year-old social media manager was in there like, "This is a good idea. Yeah, I want to lose my job. I want to sit here and get quote tweeted into another dimension. Yeah, this is what I want to do." If you don't think that they went to their boss and their boss didn't go to their boss, they said, "Run it." This is the same organization that traded for Kevin Porter Jr. just so they could get another pick. They do not care.
I wonder, though, what in the world about Josh Giddey makes you think that he is an all-star without the statutory
He's not
rape?
even closing on his own team.
He's averaging on the season 11 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists.
Yeah.
I mean, those aren't bad numbers. Not all-star numbers.
It's just like, what is the cost benefit analysis here where like this benefit X is great?
There's not.
Putting Josh Giddey's name into the world right now is just not a good idea.
It's all it does is just make people talk about your franchise negatively.
Yes.
And there's like this is the whole thing with when you going down the roads like what Josh Giddey is accused of is illegal.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's still a lot that needs to be determined, right? With the law enforcement, the courts, all of these things.
But you let that run its course.
You let that run its course and don't bring any more undue attention to him, the situation, or your franchise. And they're doing all, and that's just like organizationally how they should be thinking. Like what they should be doing, and we talked about this at the time, is until this comes to a resolution in any sense, you should sit the guy. And
which is what we discussed
You
originally.
can sit him with pay, and then as you find more information out, you can choose to sit him without pay. But instead, they're leaning the complete opposite direction and going fully into, nope, we're pumping him for all-stars.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's hubris is what it is. I mean, like in all honesty, though, you know executives around the league. There's guys that are just, they think they're above it all.
And it does seem to kind of feel like that. Like even if
Just take a drink out of a water bottle.
Yeah. Even if
During the press
Giddey
conference.
is found, I don't even want to say exonerated or innocent, but charges are not filed. Is that a win? Sure. Is that something you should be celebrating and promoting him? And maybe he should be in the back burner for a little while for making, at very minimum, wildly dubious choices?
I would say wildly dubious is one way to put it. Yeah.
I'm trying not to use profanity, okay?
one way to put it.
When you hear me say something that just doesn't sound like it's normally coming out of my mouth, that's because I'm trying not to cuss.
Just horrible look by the
I just
Oklahoma City Thunder.
don't
Way to go.
understand it. So
to
there
go.
you go. All right, coming up next, we do have Andrew Nemec, our recruiting expert, joining us. He will fill us in on all the comings and goings of the transfer portal, early National Signing Day for all of the the schools involved here on the West Coast, those going into the Big Ten, as well as those left behind. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Your day's not over yet, right? I mean, we steal you away for a little while. The early business has been taken care of, but this is just the period just opening up, right?
Yeah, but I mean, most of the work, most of the damage is done today. Oregon's still waiting on one of the top defensive linemen on the West Coast announcing tomorrow. I do think that's probably going to end up going their way for the best defensive line edge rusher haul they've gotten in program history. But for the most part, things are signed, sealed, and delivered today.
Well, what do you make of what Oregon has done? Usually in years past, we've seen Oregon being the victim of the flips, right? This year, they turned into flipping 2 receivers on signing day and really bolstering a receiver room that there were question marks heading into signing day and heading into what would be spring and next season. How has Oregon been able to kind of close that gap and start being the program that is flipping guys?
Well, insert Dan Lanning's cigar celebration gif here, right? I mean, we saw this last year, and a lot of folks thought, well, it's the fallout of Dante Moore, that potentially Dante Moore took up such a huge portion of Oregon's NIL budget and money that it made it hard to land a bunch of other guys. And then once that money potentially opened up, that allowed them to make a run at Peyton Bowen, who ended up actually flipping back, as you kind of alluded to, that they've lost some guys. But flipping Austin Novosad, the 4-star quarterback, flipping some big names. This year, everybody kind of wondered, this is a really good class, potentially the best class in program history. What's going to happen in those final days? And Dan Lanning is a closer, and we keep seeing this, right? Willie Taggart leaves, and for all the fraudulence he had for being an X's and O's guy and not being one, when they transitioned to Mario Cristobal, people went, he's a great recruiter, but can he do what Willie Taggart and his staff did? Sure, and he actually got better. And then Cristobal leaves for Miami, and people go, man, Oregon's probably going to get better with the X's and O's, but they're going to leave something on the table in terms of recruiting, because no one can recruit like Mario Cristobal. And again, insert Dan Lanning cigar celebration gif here. He's got back-to-back classes that are as good as anything Mario Cristobal's put together, culminating with today. And they're going into today, and you wonder who they might be able to get. Yesterday, I was asked this privately in a text message, and I said, the 2 names I'm watching, Jeremiah McClellan and Ryan Pelham. It'd be great if they could flip one of them. I think 2 is a pipe dream, but they've got a shot. And they flipped both of them. Jeremiah McClellan from Ohio State and Ryan Pelham from USC. Just a phenomenal class. And to finish with a big need at wide receiver, as you mentioned, Dusty, is absolutely huge. To go with Dylan Gresham, who last year, just in the playoffs, and I thought this was wrong, so I checked, and he's like, oh, yeah. He had something like 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns in the playoffs last year in California. He's a monster. So they've got a really good receiving core coming in.
Nemec, when you take a look at the rest of the Pac-12 that is leaving for the Big Ten, UW, UCLA, USC, they're obviously all trailing Oregon right now. And what's been interesting is the discussions around UW and this class. Everybody kind of came back and they made this big push for the college football playoff with Odunze and McMillan and obviously with Michael Penix Jr. Where do they kind of stand in all of this right now? Because Oregon is rightfully going to get all of the credit right now because they have what's shaping up to be a top 5 class. Where does UW stand in all of this? Are they going to be able to not necessarily reload and do what Georgia, Alabama does, but are they going to be able to do something? And then what the hell is going on at USC as you're seeing a mass exodus hit the transfer portal?
Multi-part question. Right now, Washington, and I've said this before, we saw this last year. They had a great year, and then you looked at recruiting results and went, well, I know they can identify talent, so I can't really take shots at DeBoer and say, like, he can't recruit, because obviously he can develop, and he does a great job, and he gets his guys, right? So you can't really kill him after an undefeated season in which he's coach of the year. But you look at this year's results, you look at the Big Ten rankings, they're 10th. If you look at this class compared to incoming Big Ten classes, they're 10th. They're behind Purdue. They're behind Iowa, who only plays one side of the ball, so that's really impressive. They're behind Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC, Michigan, as you mentioned, as much as USC's recruiting class has, air quotes here, fallen apart. They're way behind USC. So, yes, they're getting their guys, and we'll wait and see. But eventually the lack of firepower, the lack of star power does seem to catch up to you. We've seen traditionally you have to finish with top 10 to 12 recruiting classes 4 consecutive years to ever win a national title. That's been the case throughout the entire history of modern recruiting, the BCS era. You have to have basically an average of top 10 classes over a 4-year period, or you cannot win a national title. The transfer portal has changed that somewhat, but Washington right now, if they continue to win like this, with the recruits they're bringing in, they would be a historic outlier. And so I'm it's a little bit head scratching, particularly with Washington kids. They're not in it for a lot of the top Washington kids. Josh Connerly Jr., the 5-star offensive tackle from Rainier Beach, went to Oregon. Washington really wasn't even in his top 3 towards the end. You look at Braden Platt, who's an All-American linebacker, a national champion thrower, signs with Oregon. Washington was never even a factor in his recruitment. And they've had great years, so something's got to change there. I imagine it will. Winning tends to draw local talent to your program, but definitely a little bit of a head-scratcher for Washington. And then for USC, I'm kind of wondering if they have some issues with their NIL. Malachi Nelson enters the transfer portal. You hear rumors that late Lincoln Riley's trying to flip and get DJ Lagway on the phone, the 5-star quarterback from Florida, and like, hey, don't sign, come visit. That goes nowhere. He signs with Florida. I really thought, and I have to eat some crow here, I really thought USC with Lincoln Riley would just take off, that they would recruit elite offensive talent, that because of that, California kids would stay home from the defensive side of the ball, and they'd be a national championship contender. And that has not been the case. And I do think they need to get their NIL in order and start making the right hires on the defensive side of the ball. And then I think we'll see USC potentially elevate to where they kind of should be based on where they're located and the fact that they've got maybe the most innovative offensive coach in college football coaching their team right now.
What do we make of the Beavs and the Cougs? They are not in a spot that you want to be in with, the future being so unsteady of where the programs are going to be. And Oregon State, especially when you take into consideration your head coach and the brains of your offense, also leaves the program as well. What do you make of what the Beavs and the Cougs were able to do?
Well, I was actually quite a bit more encouraged with what Washington State did than Oregon State. And I don't think Oregon State's done a terrible job by any means. This is a perfect storm for them. It's the NIL era. They just got relegated essentially in terms of conference realignment, and so did Washington State. But they also lost their coach. And I tweeted about this earlier in the day that Washington State and Oregon State generally recruit at about the same level. Oregon State's usually a little bit ahead of Washington State. This year, Washington State has a class in the 60 to 70 range. It's changing based on commitments. They picked up a commitment from Hunter Haynes from West Linn, arguably the top defensive player in the state of Oregon. Oregon State right now is 110th, and their top commitment, Malachi Durant, who is the top wide receiver in the Northwest, is not planning to sign. That per family member of his, that he's actually going to wait. Now, he could still end up at Oregon State, but the fact that he hasn't signed is not an accident. He no longer plans to. So that's a problem. That puts them behind the likes of programs like South Alabama, things like that. And then you look and say, well, that happens. They lost a coach. They had 11 decommitments since November 25th. That's a problem. Well, look no further than Hunter Haynes, who ended up at Washington State. Hunter Haynes' brother plays at Oregon State. He considered Oregon State a dream offer. He's run a laser 4.440. He was arguably the best defensive player in Oregon this year, and he is an absolutely electric return man. He had a committable offer from Oregon. He had committable offers late from San Diego State and Washington State. He really wanted an offer from Oregon State so he could play with his brother. Oregon State never got around to really even talking to him. Wow. I mean, there was initial contact, and then it went away. So he committed privately and silently to Oregon on Sunday or Monday, and then talked about it with people close to him. And he goes, I actually just want to play. I don't want to play at the biggest school I possibly can. I want to get on the field right away. So he called Oregon and explained it to them. They were very gracious about it, said, we understand, no worries, and committed to Washington State. Washington State is thrilled with that get. Mm-hmm. And even checking in with the Haynes family, fairly recently, it's kind of like, well, we would have liked to hear from Oregon State so the two boys could play for the same school, but they never really got back to us. So I think there was some ball dropping on the part of Oregon State in terms of they had an opportunity to add some pieces in state, given that they lost their coach, and instead maybe didn't go after some guys that they could have.
Yikes.
That's tough. That's tough.
Getting the loss of the transition there, not exactly great.
Who is we're seeing, and I can't remember a time like this. I know that there's a lot of flips every signing day and every time we have this, but I can't remember having such prominent programs be on the outs of these flips, because Florida and Texas A&M mainly, they've had on the national level, their class has been absolutely pillaged. Who's had the best and worst days on the national level?
Well, this will surprise you none. Alabama's had a really good day. They flipped Kevin Riley, who was the number 3 running back in the country, committed to Miami. They also flipped a 4-star linebacker. Oregon's had a great day. In the era of flips, Oregon being able to land 2 elite wide receivers was absolutely huge. The person not having a good day, and frankly, it hasn't been a good few months, is Deion Sanders in Colorado. Their big flex on college football was that they landed Jordan Seaton, the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. If you remember, Jordan Seaton announced a group of 6 finalists. Colorado wasn't on it. By the time he announced his commitment later that day, he committed to Colorado. It was like, oh, weird, from 7th to 1st. Wonder what happened there. Interestingly enough, that has turned into maybe a bidding war. Maybe we can just call it a battle. And Maryland may be able to flip him. It's still to be determined. He did take a visit to Maryland last weekend, kind of a surprise visit. He is from that area, so that would actually be staying home, even though he's from IMG Academy. He grew up in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. So they may end up pulling off a major commitment. But for Colorado, it was going to be, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to have a great recruiting class. The recruiting class isn't great. They landed some transfer portal guys, but one of them flipped to Oregon. They tried to flip Oregon's top offensive line commit. He put on a Colorado hat and then tossed it aside and signed with Oregon today. So it has been a rough day for Colorado and Coach Prime.
Well, Nimick, thanks for taking some time for us, man. We'll check back in on National Signing Day in February for sure, and then we'll check in between. Go get some rest, relax a little bit, and I promise I won't text you for at least a couple hours.
Sounds good.
That is Andrew Nimick, our recruiting expert, and a guy putting his nose to the grindstone.
Poor Nimick, because you're going through it with USC's recruiting class.
To be fair, he was the one that was preempting me. He was texting me and giving me a heads up about it, and I was like, well, this will keep me from spiraling entirely.
Well, he just said that Colorado currently is having one of the worst days.
Mm-hmm.
They are 1 spot below USC, which is USC's at 20th.
It depends on
rankings.
The one that I was looking at earlier had them at 14th. So I don't know who to trust for these composite rankings.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the overall ranking, because if you go to just recruiting rankings, that just is your high school recruiting classes. Period, and they've dropped to 17th now because of the 2 receivers that they've lost. But the overall, when you account for the portal as well,
which they have not,
they're down to 20. Look, this is shaky.
They expected to do a lot in the portal, and now they've done next to nothing, with the exception of the 2 Beavers that have come in.
Yeah,
so
that's tough. And going into the Big Ten, you're gonna want to get a little bit better in the trenches.
Not bringing in, Kansas State quarterback instead of, Literally.
Actually, that fits the Big Ten a lot better than you think.
It does.
Yeah.
The non-explosive offenses.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. Coming up next, I teased it earlier. Florida State is still trying to leave the ACC. We'll get to that, as well as John Morant made his return. We'll get to that after 2:30. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. It looks like there's a finger pushing on the back of that domino. Is that of Florida State again rattling the sabers about leaving the ACC?
Look, they're going to have a lot of issues though because of the grant of rights being so secure in the ACC
and the addition of 2 more teams to the conference.
Now that they have the ability to lean on their governor and their state legislators, they're going to be able to fight every way possible because the governor of Florida, state senators, state representatives, they are all up in arms over Florida State being left out of the college football playoff. And they're using that as a rally to kind of try to see if they can nudge their way out of that grant of rights and into potentially the SEC. And this is no secret because Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, and Virginia had all been the ones that said, we want to go. We can find a new home. We can get out of here. North Carolina was rumored to go to the Big Ten.
What about Virginia?
What about Virginia?
Great country song.
And so when all of this last wave of realignment was going on, we remember the ACC was at the tipping point. It was either them or the Pac-12 were going to be the ones to crumble. Pac-12 ended up doing it. But now that Florida State has new life in this, they want more money. They want more respect, and they try to fight their way out of it. And at the very least, what they're going to want to do is try to get a bigger piece of the revenue pie and say, if we got to be in this sucky conference, at least give us a little bit more money to do it.
And that's the interesting thing about all of this when it's all said and done. Florida State, it's nothing new as far as them wanting to leave the conference.
Yeah.
There's them, Clemson, and you've had a few other schools who've talked about that possibility. But remember, they not only was it 25% that they needed to get to, was that the threshold to trigger it?
No, they needed more than that. I think they have to be over half. And that was the thing, is that they had Florida State, 50%. Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and North Carolina State were all wanting to have those conversations.
But with the addition of Stanford and Cal, you raise that threshold.
And SMU as well.
And SMU as well. But you raise that threshold to a larger number to break that grant of rights. So it's not just a challenge level of, hey, it's going to cost $120 million to get out of this, fight it in the courts, blah, 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 which $120 million is a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, if a school like Florida State wants to come up with that, it magically can.
I mean, $120 million is, think of that, what that will do, though, for your operating costs moving forward in the years. And this is where they're going to try to fight and try to see if they can do it, is they're going to want to get guys, they want to get the politicians to pony up state money. And they feel like they can kind of maybe get that backing a little bit to say, hey, if we get out, and Miami's a private institution, so they may be on an island all by themselves trying to get out. But if we can get a little bit of cash to help ease that burden, they feel like now's the time to pounce on it, because their governor's firing off letters to Bill Hancock and the College Football Playoff Committee demanding answers. And then Bill Hancock gives them all of the answers, and he still says, that's not answering the question. Quite literally, Bill Hancock outlined in a letter to Rick Scott, I think it was this past weekend, every single reason and bullet point that the committee used to keep Florida State out. And he said, those aren't the answers. It's like, yes, there is. That's it, Rick. That you got the answers that you were looking for.
You got it.
Like, this is not politically motivated. The job of the committee is to put the 4 best teams in, not the 4 most deserving teams. I don't care what you say. This is the last year they have to deal with it anyway. It doesn't matter what you say or what you think. They were given the power to put the 4 best teams in, and the people that gave them the power were the universities, were the conferences, and that includes Florida State, to put the 4 best teams in, not the 4 most deserving. And they got the 4 best teams in the college football playoff.
What's going to be interesting is because ESPN is the grant of rights holder over the conference, if Florida State does opt to leave, if they can use that, the fact that the College Football Playoff Committee said it's not the most deserving for the College Football Playoff, if Florida State can use that as part of their legal case against ESPN,
but it won't hold any ground. Like, I mean,
I think it might.
It's the four best. It is spelled out. They're not the four best.
Again,
like, I mean, they're not.
But when you talk about rulings, there's nothing concrete here.
Exactly. So they don't have any footing.
But that's my point. Is that's what the best legal cases are made out of. Is if they take a look at this and they say that the ruling there is subjective and that therefore unfair, that the consistency isn't there, and that a media partner also has input on that. That's the route I think they'll go.
The media partner doesn't have input on it. First of all, because ESPN also they'll go, we fund the ACC network too.
But it won't be equal revenue. But again, there's a lot of different steps through this.
Yeah, I don't think they have any. I think if they're going to go up and try to fight ESPN on it, that's the wrong way to do it.
I think that's the way they will do it.
Because they'll say it's the college football playoff. They're the ones that make these decisions. You signed the contract as well, putting yourself in the parameters that we've laid out, which is the four best. Mm-hmm. You agreed upon it, and you entered that contract as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State went down this path, and one of the first things they did was subpoena the cell phones of ESPN executives on the college football side. And
look at you going tinfoil hat.
No, legitimately, because this is the way I would do it.
Yeah,
this is the way I would do it, because you would try to make it a case of collusion.
Yeah, and they still wouldn't. They could just point to. May I point you to the ACC Conference Championship game where your offense just sat there and dry humped their way down the field?
But they can also
barely did that.
But they can also point to other institutions where their offenses suck too, and they still found a way to make it in there.
When?
I mean, Michigan wasn't this powerhouse offense.
Michigan?
Yeah.
You're talking this year?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. No. Michigan is absolutely boat racing teams.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
And they don't have any of the injuries at significant positions, which is, by the way, something they agreed to in the contract that they signed, saying that injuries will matter. Like it's I don't see it happening for Florida State. Look, 13-0, I still believe that you should be in the college football playoff.
Sure.
You should be. I mean,
which next year there will be, which that maybe solves some of this in that sense. But
and Jordan Travis also, like, that injury was monumental to them, and you can't ignore it. It's the most important position in all of sports, and their offense was a shell of itself without him.
What I think ultimately happens is they come to a settlement that's nowhere near $120 million.
Now we're talking.
But I think they will use what I just said.
Yeah.
And then they get out for $30 million.
Yeah.
And the state covers half of
it. Perfect. And then they're in the SEC, but that would be the ultimate play. The SEC goes, no.
Make them homeless.
Like, we don't, because the SEC could be like, dude, if you took us to court and you tried to railroad us as part of your jump out of the ACC, why should we help you? because part of why they're so mad is that Alabama has one loss, Texas has one loss, and they're going, Texas and Alabama are in the SEC, and so you tried to come at us and say that two of our member institutions shouldn't have been in there, and you
come in and go, hi, hey,
we're here.
How's it going, guys? Stand over the corner.
I could see the SEC going, no, we're good with where we're at. That would be the most epic.
It would make things more interesting for sure. Speaking of making things interesting, John Morant made his return after a 25-game suspension for the Memphis Grizzlies, and Memphis called 12.
He did it.
First, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
Do you mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by 808 Hawaiian Restaurant. Enjoy some Kahlua Pig Terry Chicken and an island cocktail at Burnside, Woodstock, or order online at ate-oh-ate.com. First on the Fan, college football's early signing period has begun. The Oregon Ducks getting a couple of flips. First, Ohio State commit 4-star receiver Jeremiah McClellan, and now 4-star USC commit receiver Ryan Ryan Pelham has signed his letter of intent. Among the other signees today are defensive linemen Elijah Rushing and Aiden Breland. The Ducks also get a commit from Kansas State and all Big 12 safety Kobe Savage. CBS Sports reporting Oregon State and Washington State are expected to join the West Coast Conference in non-football and baseball Division I sports for the next 2 seasons. In the NFL, Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll says quarterback Geno Smith will be a full go in practice today as he returns from a groin injury. The Jets have activated quarterback Aaron Rodgers to the 53-man roster so he can continue to practice as part of his rehab despite being out for the rest of the season. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel says quarterback Will Levis will not practice today due to an ankle injury. Ryan Tannehill will get first-team reps and would start Sunday against Seattle if Levis can't go. Saints head coach Dennis Allen says receiver Chris Olave will play tomorrow night against the Rams as he battles an ankle injury. On the hard court, Trailblazers off tonight after hanging on to beat the Suns last night, snapping a 7-game skid. They host the Wizards tomorrow night. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high def 1080 The Fan. When looking for
24 points against the Pelicans. Zion, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, all out there choking miserably in the final couple of minutes as Ja Morant
No way.
called up his buddy from South Carolina, Zion, to the mat over and over and over and over and blew past him. I believe late in the third quarter, he called him up in a pick and roll on 5 straight plays and made him look dumb.
Ja Morant's still good at basketball.
Turns out,
Ja Morant's still not great at everything else that surrounds being a star. Mainly the attention or flashing his gun everywhere. But this is, and we talked about this yesterday, the interesting part is, how is he going to be received after all of the times that he has stepped in it, right?
yeah,
And showing no remorse for really anything that he's done.
not really.
And what we're seeing now is that framing is going to be not done really by the media. It's going to be done by his peers.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that's something that you pointed out to me before the show.
Yeah, the full court Nike press by Nike is real. You saw Draymond Green, you saw LeBron James, you saw others in the swoosh world. Let's be bluntly honest in the business of sports. Nike is not in a good position right now. They are going to turn a profit for the first time this quarter in a while, and it's not because their shoes are selling left, right, and center. It's because they're slashing jobs.
Yep.
They had a miserable fallout with Kyrie Irving, who was one of the most successful, who had one of the most successful shoe lines since Kobe.
Yeah. And it was a good-looking shoe. And
Great
then
shoe.
there are other guys, Ja Morant, and you can't market him. You can't market either of those guys.
And to be fair, his shoe is dope.
Yeah,
It genuinely is. It's a good-looking shoe. Now, Sabrina Ionescu has maybe the hottest shoe on the market right now, but there is still, fair or not, don't get your panties in a twist, she's still a women's basketball player. She does not have the branding. She does not carry that kind of weight. Even if she was a Kobe acolyte and she was an Oregon Duck, she does not carry that kind of weight of an American-born NBA star, which Ja Morant is.
But what is amazing is that there's a lot of American-born NBA players
Wearing
that
her
are
shoes.
wearing her shoe.
Look, Anthony Simons is wearing Sabrina's right now. Like that's like they are they are the hottest shoe right now in basketball. They're fantastic, but it does not move the global brand.
What's really interesting is that they don't seem to be pushing Giannis's shoe as hard as I thought they would.
They did, and again, this is the issue. Where's Giannis from?
Well, he's from Greece, but he's a charismatic guy. Like they need to frame it that way.
I know, but this doesn't sell.
Golly.
Luka's Jordans are ugly as sin.
They are really bad shoes.
Tatum's Jordans are
even
ugly
worse.
as sin. And that's the other thing is that Tatum and Luka both went to Jordan because Nike was like, we're not sure about you.
Yeah. Well, it's still under the same umbrella.
Well, yeah, but again, it is different. Jordan hasn't put together a decent looking shoe in 15 years.
No, because he's collecting his billions up for re-releasing his great ones.
And they haven't had anybody there who has really pushed the envelope like Tinker did for 15 years.
No.
So, but on all of this, Ja and his shoe line and Nike, they're quietly backing him because remember, Nike did a little bit of a campaign, a little image rehabilitation following Ja's first dust up, and then they got caught in the bear trap, so to speak.
Well, the bear trap is
Ja and his dad.
He is not a person that you want to promote or market.
But they're in the business of Ja now, and it's too late to back out.
He is so damn good, and he showed it last night.
34, 8, and 6, including the game winner.
Game winner at the end, took the game over.
Absolutely dynamic monster.
Yet, who is still sitting courtside, making a scene and making it about him? And that's like all of the reporting out of Memphis has been, it is like Ja by himself isn't as big of an issue as when Ja gets around
his dad,
his inner circle. Yep. And that is always his best friend can't go to an NBA arena.
Nope.
But he can go everywhere else with him. And apparently nothing has changed in that regard or has changed with Ja. And look, that's going to be the hardest part. Like you have to make these hard decisions when you become a superstar and a celebrity.
And
of some of the people that you hung out with are not going to be good for you and your career moving forward. Now, he could choose another another route of, I don't want to be the superstar. I don't want to be that guy. And there's plenty of guys who have gone down that route.
Which is fine. Just go ahead and give up the shoe, give up the money, give up all.
But you
give up
can't
all the
have
other
it
stuff.
both ways.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like Ja Morant wants it both ways. The Grizzlies are trying to pull the reins back and say, hey, pick a lane and stay in it. And he's just swerving back and forth across both lines of the road.
It's going to be really interesting. I mentioned this the other day. I think I mentioned this on air. I talked to a host of executives over the last couple of weeks as I'm kind of getting ready for scouting season. One of the storylines was like, Draymond. The other one was John. Everyone that I talked to about Ja, there wasn't a single one that didn't think he was going to mess up. All of them. All of them think he's going to mess up again.
And that's tough, man.
And it's like,
and that's the sad part.
Yeah,
that is the sad part.
And look, you could say that, well, maybe the general outlook of NBA executives is one of pessimists because they've seen a lot of stories fail.
Yeah, they've seen this play out.
The redemption story is not a common occurrence.
No.
Once they start careening down this path, it typically doesn't go well.
No.
But I mean, every single one of them that I talked to was like, he could screw it up next month and it wouldn't surprise me. Like that's where we're at with this now. And so if you're looking at Nike, if you're looking at Memphis, if you're looking at that school or at that franchise, good God, I've been talking too much for college today. If you look at that franchise, they're letting him run amok and they have no one. There's no Pat Riley in the building to tell him to sit the hell down and shut up.
Yeah, who is their GM even?
Rich Kleiman.
Rich Kleiman.
Yeah.
He's been around the block.
Yeah, he was a power agent. So, and I mean, Taylor Jenkins, great coach, but he's younger than both of us.
Yeah, the owner is not old either.
No,
majority owner's what 40 or early 40s, 43,
42, 43.
Yeah.
So you don't there isn't somebody in the building to be like, nah, because here's the thing, Memphis is scared. What if we tell John no and he takes his ball and goes home? And by go home, I mean go literally anywhere else. He's a top 15 player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think teams are willing to take on that risk? He is right at the line of how much talent you're willing to risk for how much stupid.
Well, and I guess then the conversation is, at what point do they go, all right, we are going to have to package him and deal him?
Look, I've said this off air a ton. I think
and let those teams take that risk.
What would behoove both teams to dealing with their own issues is Atlanta and Memphis trading problematic point guards. Trade for Ja. Call it good.
Atlanta is winning that one.
Yeah,
but if Ja likes strip clubs, Atlanta's a spot.
Yeah. So, all right, come in next. We'll put a nice little bow on this show and get you ready for a Patrick Harris and Will Ortner edition of Isaac Suit. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. a jersey from the World Cup sold for at auction.
Like this past World Cup?
2022 World Cup. Leo Messi jersey. Game worn. Argentina.
$3.5 million.
More than double that.
What? 7 million?
7.8.
Whoa.
$7.8 million.
Who bought it?
Undisclosed.
Of course it is. So
Sotheby's of New York. So
it's just like
it's going to some billionaire's house.
I feel like this is going to be like in a movie where there's like a drug lord somewhere who bought that jersey and he's just going to wear it for like a pickup game of soccer. You know how
Just because he can.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
he's just going to go out there and be like, I paid $7.8 million for this. I'm just going to wear it out here running around with you guys.
It is not the most expensive jersey. It is the third most expensive jersey